Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be taking these windows out, the three that you see here, and we're also going to take out two on the side there as well. We're going to be taking them out as well, and we're going to be shortening the window. Instead of being as long as they are right now, they're going to be a little bit shorter. We're going to shorten it down with probably, I'm going to say, at least a foot, maybe 18 inches, but we'll see when we get the windows here how it progresses. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, and it's going to be tough to film it, and the reason I say that is because, as you can see, you can just see now that it actually changed, because now it's picking up the light on the outside. But let's bring it in over here. I'm going to zoom down a little bit. We're going to take the windows themselves out. First thing we'll do is we'll take that framing off, take the framing off, and then we'll remove the windows. We'll frame out a new wall for below the windows, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so let's go outside, take a look on the outside, what it looks like, and then we'll get started, and we'll get this job done. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the outside right here. We're going to remove these windows. We're going to take out the, everything that you see here is going to be removed. We're going to shorten the window down to approximately here. We'll frame out the entire bottom right here with some new plywood and some 2x4, so we'll frame everything out, and then we're going to install right here, because as you can see, this siding on the house is going to be almost impossible to duplicate that siding. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, we're going to frame this out with a type of it's not wood, but it looks like wood, but it's actually plastic. It's maintenance free. You never have to worry about it cracking or anything like that. If you choose to paint it, you can. If you choose not to, that's okay too. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to come to this side over here. We're going to remove that window here. We're going to take that window out. Again, we're going to shorten it down to approximately right here. So we're going to frame this all out with some 2x4s and some wood. And then we'll put that, I think it's called Azor, we're going to use to frame this out, so that it'll be maintenance free and it'll look like a nice decorative piece. All right, so we're going to do it on that one. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to do it on this one here as well. That's all coming out. It'll be framed out on the lower half of it, and then we'll put the Azor on there, and then we'll frame it out with some decorative pieces around the outside, so it looks like a very nice finished job. All right, let's get started. Okay, so starting on the outside, we came out to where the aluminum was touching up against the window itself, and we carefully removed all of the aluminum because we are going to have to reuse it later on, so we try not to damage it. After we get this side, all the aluminum off, we went to the opposite side and we did the exact same thing. We removed all of the aluminum that was up against the old existing window, being careful not to damage it because we are going to need to reuse it in the future. So we carefully removed it and set that off to the side. Next thing we'll do is we're going to go inside of the house itself. We pulled off all of the molding around the window. You can see here we pulled the molding out. We then took out all of the insulation that was pushed inside there, so that we can see how the window was secured in, and this way we can remove it. If any nails or screws or whatever are inside there, we can get in there with our Sawzall and we can cut them in anticipation of pulling the window out of the opening. All right, so now we have everything removed here. We're going to go to the opposite side and we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to pull off all of the molding around the windows itself, the 3 triple windows that is. And once we have all that molding off, again, we pulled all the insulation out to expose any kind of nails or screws that could be in there to hold it in place. And once we're confident we have all of the screws out and this material, we're going to get this out of here just so we can clear up the work area where we're going to be working. And then we'll do the exact same thing on that window on the left right there. Took all the molding off, pulled all the insulation out of around the window itself, and now we're ready to continue and remove the windows from the opening. All right, so let's do that. After we had the inside pulled apart, we then come outside and we removed all of the aluminum siding leading up to the window itself so that we can access it from the outside. And after we have the aluminum siding peeled back so we can see how the window was installed, we see that the window, the 3 windows and of course the side windows When they were put in there, they were nailed in around the nailing flange itself, so it's nailed into the house itself. We're just going to pull all of these nails out that you see all the way up around that flange. Once we pull all of these nails out, then we will be able to pull the window out. And you can see the side window is the exact same thing. So we're going to pull all those nails out as well so we can pull it out. Now after we pull the nails out, you can see that the window itself just pretty much fell right out. We just pulled all the nails out of it, gave it a push from the inside out, and we're able to get it out. Now if you take a look up on this header up here, you can see that somebody didn't do the job correctly. They cut the header and they pieced it back together. You can never cut a header out and put it in as two different pieces. So we are going to have to change the header above the window itself. We're not going to change both parts of it. They only cut through one of them for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why. So we're going to change the one header on the outside, while the one on the inside is still in good shape. It was one solid piece. But this is what it looks like from the inside. The header on the inside was one solid piece. It was the outside header that was actually cut and pieced back together. As I said, you never cut out a header and piece it back together. You always replace the header so that it actually holds up and supports what is supposed to, anything up on the top. You can see right here what they did, and that's not the right way to do it. So before we cut these 2x4s out, we came in here with the jack. We put a piece of 2x4 up to the header itself, and we jacked it up just to take the tension off of the 2x4s that we're going to be removing, because one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to cut them out and have that header then collapse. So we're going to hold it up here while we take those other 2x4s out. All right, so we cut out the one support beam that was inside there. We then framed out the top header. We put our header in. We then nailed the two headers together, and now we're ready to frame out the bottom section of the window. So what we did here is we measured the size of the window itself, and then we made the wall for the lower part of it so that we can actually close in the bottom part of it. All right, and you can see we used 2x4s for just about everything inside there, including the double plate up on the top where the window is going to sit onto, and the studs themselves, of course, are 16 inches on center. All right, so once we have that all finished, we're now going to go outside and we're going to put on the plywood on the outside, and then we're going to start to waterproof it so we can put our new windows in. So now we put our waterproofing material on the outside. It'll keep any kind of moisture from getting through. You'll also notice up where the window is going to fit up around the top, you'll see that we put this waterproofing membrane on there so that just in case any water was to get inside there, it would actually hit this waterproofing membrane, run off down the plastic and out and away from the house itself. And we're going to do that all the way around the entire window itself before we put it into the opening. Lifted the window into the opening, and we put a couple of nails around the nailing flange to hold the window in place. We then came inside and we took shims and we put shims underneath the window to give it the space so we can put insulation in there later on, and we also made sure we want to have it perfectly level. And that's very important. It's got to be absolutely level because you don't want to have it in crooked because it's going to wind up ruining the whole appearance of the window itself. Once we're sure that we have it perfectly level, we then cut the shims off. We nailed it up tight around the nailing flange. And then we're going to proceed on to the side windows. We'll put the side windows in, and we'll do the exact same thing once we install them. We'll come in here with a level, of course a much shorter level, put it underneath there, shim the window exactly as we need it to be, and then we come in here, we nail the flange on both the smaller windows and the larger windows so that everything is perfectly level. You'd never want to have the windows sitting on top of the new wall that we just built, because you definitely have to put insulation inside this. You want to make sure you have adequate space so that you can use that spray and insulation so that it's a weather-tight fit. And now one more time before we actually finish everything off on the inside here, we're going to put a level on there, make sure everything lines up level. The center of the windows, the small windows on the side of it. And once we're absolutely confident that everything lines up exactly as it's supposed to, everything is level and plumb, we make sure that it's perfect before we go any further. And as you can see, everything lines up just the way it's supposed to. right, once we're sure everything is done, then we'll continue with the rest of the installation now. Next, we move back outside, and as you can see, we took off the corner beads that were on there. We took off the corners, and we took off the rest of the aluminum siding. And the reason we did that is because the corners would not line up correctly with the rest of the windows. It'd be just easier, instead of trying to shim anything out and to have that one window recessed in on the siding, we elected to take the rest of the siding off, which is not a big deal. It's just a matter of taking out a couple of nails and pulling it all the way down. We then came in and we waterproofed the rest of the outside of the house itself with that home wrap that you see here. So now everything is waterproofed perfectly all the way around the house itself. Next, we move inside the house and we install the insulation in between that new framing that we had done. We put the insulation in there. Of course, we stapled it in between the studs for a nice tight fit, so that way we don't get any kind of cold air coming through when the winter does arrive. Now, we still have to seal around the windows itself with that foam insulation, and we'll do that very shortly. Next, we cut that decorative panel so that it's the width of the 3 windows that you see here. We then attached it on there. We nailed it on with our nail gun, of course. And once we have that in place, we're going to take the corner beads and now we're going to frame it out all the way around the corners so that it looks like a nice custom-built window unit itself. All right, so we held them up in place here. We cut them to size. We then took our brad nailer and we nailed it in place so that everything on the outside is level as well. We moved to the side windows and we did the exact same thing on the side windows, as you can see here. We did the exact same thing on the opposite side as well. Next, we started to reattach our aluminum siding that we previously took off. We're going to bring it up all the way around the windows itself. We put our J-channel around that decorative piece that we put on there so that the aluminum siding fits into the J-channel. And then we'll continue all the way up the wall until we get up to the very top, where we have our J-channel again installed on the top as well. And that's what it looks like down the bottom, nailed up nice and tight. And just so you know, we are going to come in here and we are going to seal up all of those small little holes that a brad nailer did when we installed it. You can buy a crayon type piece to put to seal up all of the holes so that you won't see any of the holes from the outside any longer. All right, next we're going to move up to the top here. We're going to put a piece of aluminum on the very top to finish it off. And you can see our sides are coming along very well. Same exact thing. We had plenty of aluminum siding to get in here and put the whole thing back together. Next, directly above the window, we cut a piece of aluminum and we fit the aluminum up there and we nailed that nice and tight. Turning it to the inside, we came inside, we cut the drywall that we're going to be installing in there. We screwed the drywall into the new opening that we created. We will come back in here later on, of course, tape it and close off all of these screw holes that you see here. But that's what it looks like on the inside, a nice tight fit. So now it's weather tight and we don't have to worry about any of the drafts coming in from the outside. The next thing we're going to do now is we're going to come inside here and we're going to create our extension jambs to bring the window so it's even with the inside of the wall. So we're going to make our measurements of how far out our extension jamb is going to come. We're going to cut them to size. Then we'll nail them all together with our brad nailer, and then we'll install it into the opening. And of course, once we have it installed in the opening, we'll shim it with some shims, and we'll attach it permanently to the new window that we just installed. This is what it looks like after we've built the extension jamb for the depth that we need and the height. Next, we're going to come in here. We're going to take the extension jambs and we're going to lift them up. We have the height that we want the extension jamb located. We're going to come in here, install the jambs, shim them, and then we'll come in here with our brad nailer and we'll nail it nice and tight. Now, I want to mention this to you as well. When you're going to install this extension jamb, don't just put it up there and nail it in place. Make sure you get in there with your level and make sure that the extension jamb is perfectly level, so that way everything lines up exactly as it's supposed to. All All right, so we have our extension jambs now in place. They're nailed in. The next thing we're going to do is going to come in here with silicone, and we're going to silicone where the extension jamb touches into the window itself for a nice, perfect, airtight, uniformed window. Next, we took our spray insulation and we sprayed it around the window itself before we started to install the decorative molding on the inside. This piece here we cut to size. We put the level on that as well. Make sure it's perfectly level before we proceeded to do the side pieces. And once we install the sides, then we'll come up and we'll put that last piece up on the top to finish off the molding around the window itself. And this is what it looks like with the window, with the extension jambs, with everything framed out, with the spray insulation inside there, of course, before we put the moldings back on. And that's what it looks like as a finished product. Next, we're going to turn our attention to do the exact same thing on the side windows. We're going to create the extension jambs, and then we'll put the molding on these, and we'll finish that off. Let's take a look outside now. This is what the finished product looks like on the outside, and this is what the finished product looks like on the inside. Okay, so that's it. This job is done and we're on to the next one. The only thing I'm going to tell you is make sure that you actually get in there and you use the level to make sure that everything is level and plumb. The worst thing you can do is put a window in and the finished product is going to be crooked and it's going to look horrible. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.